Life and business can be easy, but us silly humans love getting in our own way. My name is Nico Rapklis, and I've had a wild journey. From releasing traumas that I held on to for decades, to playing college athletics, working with multi-million dollar brands, having a spiritual awakening, and now coaching incredible humans navigate their inner and outer world. The Just Grow podcast is my outlet to share and help others with life and business. After investing north of $100,000 into my personal and professional development, the Woo plus Do formula is what has served me best. A healthy combination of mindset, energetics, consciousness, spirituality, self-healing, and discovery, matched with a high-level strategy, principles, focus, optimization, and accountability to help you be, do, and have everything that has been placed in your heart. This podcast is for the impact-driven entrepreneur that is finally ready to start thriving internally and externally. Welcome to Just Grow. Yo, what's happening, my friends? Welcome to the Just Grow podcast. So pumped to have you here on this particular episode. My name is Nico Rapklis. I am the host if you're new around these parts. This interview is going to be with Jenn Ditzhazy. We had an incredible conversation about manifesting and what that really means, because there's so much misnomers and misinformation on what truly manifesting is and how to incorporate it from the woo aspect as well as the do aspect, so that you can really start elevating your manifestations and create that life that you want, the health, the wealth, the happiness, the business success, all the amazing things that comes with becoming a magnetic manifester. So if you want to learn all about that type of stuff, you're not going to want to miss a single second of this episode. Before we do get jumped in, I want to let you know about our Magnetic Manifesting School community. We'll have that link down below. We have over 800 amazing entrepreneurs inside of that group where we go live every single week. So definitely join that. It's a free group right now. Soon it will be paid. And then also we have a free video that I just created that walks you through the Woo and Do framework and how you can utilize it so that you can go out there and actually create the business success and the life that you truly desire from a very authentic place. So go ahead and click on that down below. And without further ado, let's jump into this interview with Jenn Ditzhazy. What's up, Jenn?
Hey, how's it going?
Excellent. Thanks for being on the podcast. I'm really excited
Yeah,
about this one. You know, I, I meet a lot of people, right? And I have a lot of great conversations, but you can just know when there's a good vibe between two people. And I felt like when we got on our Zoom call, what was it, like a week and a half ago, definitely a lot of alignment. So I was really excited to sit down for a proper podcast conversation and then just chop it up with you.
yeah, I totally agree. I think that we have so much in common. We teach a lot of the same stuff. We do a similar mission, I think, in the world. So it's going to be, I'm excited to learn more about you and share a little bit too.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's jump in. I'd love to hear a little bit more on how you got into entrepreneurship and kind of your take on manifestation. I always feel like they're kind of intertwined, and the personal development and then business is always like one of the biggest personal development tools out there.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I always say that business is the biggest spiritual game.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to up your spiritual game, it's relationships and business, right?
Amen to that.
Yeah, so I have always known that I needed to be an entrepreneur. We were talking about this a little before. I'm a Sagittarius, and I think I'm like, because of that, I can't work for anyone else. So I've always known like I had to work for myself. So I started by becoming a health coach in like my early, I don't know, probably about a decade ago. And it did not go very well. I really tried, and I got one client in 6 months. And what I realized though through that was like, it was me, I had all the marketing tools, I had all the strategy, but it was like my mental game was this big old roadblock, right? So I started really diving into manifestation, into the subconscious mind, into identity work, into energy work, like all of these things. And I was like, I need to figure out why like this is so hard for me, right? And so then I ended up starting a supplement company, and that was another very like spiritual game.
Mm.
And I that one did a lot better. And but what I realized is I was sitting in a Tony Robbins seminar, and he's like, if you are not passionate about what you do, then, and this is probably not a direct quote, so don't use this as a direct quote, but he said, if you're not passionate about what you do, you need to stop doing it. Like you're going to always be pushing rather than be pulled toward what it is that you want to do. And in
Mm.
that moment, I just had this like sinking feeling of like, I don't want to be in the supplement space. Like it used to be my identity, but I had this huge spiritual awakening. I had really connected with like my intuition, and I just knew, and I was like, dang it, like I put in all this money, I put in all this time, like really I have to like stop. And so I kept going because it was a big and it was a huge investment for me, like in all of the ways, financially, everything. And the business was just starting to really like take off. And I had just had like my first publication about the business, like all these things were starting to move. And I was like, really, like I'm supposed to get out of this. And it was really a leap of faith. And I did. I ended up selling the business, and I kind of entered this like space of, I don't know what I'm going to do next. Like, I really have no idea. And I just kept asking for guidance. I was like, what do you want me to do? And at the time, I was having some RRT sessions with John Conley. I know that you've had him on the podcast.
Yes.
Super cool dude, right?
Yeah.
So, and in one of the sessions, he's like, I think you should join my RRT program. He's like, I think you'd be really good at it. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, whatever. Couldn't afford it. And then he kept asking. We had a series of 3 sessions, and he asked every time. And he's like, listen, I'll give you a discount if you join it. And I was like, okay. So I joined it. And honestly, like, I like kind of blacked out, I think, after that. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I ended up starting my coaching business, really going into it. And yeah, that's where I'm at now. I use RRT in my practice. I use all sorts of different methods. And yeah, it's been a growth journey for sure.
Ah, that's beautiful. There's so many things we can riff off of all of them. A couple of things that like popped out to me is, I think I love that quote, that pseudo quote. Um, is what you're passionate about. But I think your passions evolve and they change. Because like you said something about how you were passionate about supplements and then you grew out of that. And I can relate because I've done all sorts of different things, but there was a time and place when I was extremely passionate about running YouTube ads. And that was like my vision. And I wanted to be the absolute best. And I was so excited and invigorated me. And
Yeah.
then that evolved and, moved on to other things. But I think that's okay. And I think it's like not having that attachment to feeling like you have to figure out your life's purpose. That's your grand life purpose, that you can't have multiple ones in different stages and seasons of your life.
I so agree. I think that as our soul expands, like we're naturally going to be drawn and attracted to different things. And I think that it's part of our evolution, like exactly what you said, to allow ourselves to let go of what is no longer us. Uh, yeah, I completely agree with that. I think and I also think like, I'm sure you felt this with YouTube ads. It's like now you have that skill, so you get to take it into whatever you do, right? Like that's a hugely valuable skill to be able to run YouTube ads successfully, so
Yeah.
it's not a waste in any way.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up because that was one of the other things that really drew to me is like you going and create a supplement business, you develop so many skills throughout. Now you have that experience, you can reference that. And I think back even to like all the things I've invested in, like coaching programs. And I think in the beginning stages, I don't know if this is your perspective, but I think it's more of like the beginner's perspective where it's like, I'm going to invest in this coaching because this is going to be the thing that finally gets me to where I want to be. And when you look back after you've invested a lot into yourself in personal development, you realize that they're all just like building blocks. And if we're talking about how business is one of the best building blocks, the best tools for personal development, it's just another piece to help you grow as a human and grow as a business owners. Because I'm sure that you're taking even stuff that you've learned and internalized and embodied from your supplement company, and you're applying it to your coaching programs now.
Yeah, I so agree. And I think what I love about what you said too is any product you create as an entrepreneur, right, or any program you create as a coach, realizing you don't have to fix the entire person's life, right? Like you don't have to fix
Yes.
their entire world. And you can take that pressure off of yourself because you think of it as this is a building block on their spiritual journey. They were led to me for a reason, and I'm going to give them the best that I have to offer, but I don't have to fix them. I'm not, that's not my role.
Ah, that is. That's such a great point. And that has been a big realization recently. And it came even from just continuing to study and understand sales a lot more. Because I would say I had that kind of misnomer where I have to create something that's gonna take this person to heights that they'd never even imagined before. And so when you start taking the perspective of like taking that pressure off of like you have to be this messiah that solves this person's life, and rather it's like this is going to help them get closer or maybe even just speed up the process a little bit more. I think it comes with less expectations from both sides. It's like I'm not here to alter your life from 0 to 100. I'm here to help you go from 10 to 20 or whatever the metric is. But I think that's such a great point to like not have these expectations and this pressure that it has to be like this monumental. Obviously, like the goal is to just significantly improve and help people, but it doesn't have to be like this grand thing.
Yeah. I think too, it also is like recognizing that they have that power to do that themselves, right? When you recognize, like, I don't need to fix you because there's nothing wrong with you in the first place, but also like you have so much power within you that I'm just a guide to help you find an aspect of that, right?
Mhm.
Like it's really giving that power back to each one of us. Like I don't want a coach to ever think that they need to fix me or they need to make everything right in my world because I have that power, right? Like we all have that power ourselves.
Yeah. As coaches, I this is what I believe too, is it's not even like I'm getting further away from like advice, and I rather like to call it perspective because that's
Mm,
all it is. It's just like people that are maybe a little bit further ahead in the journey. They just have they have different experiences. They have different perspectives. They've just seen a lot more. And I think that's really the thing is like, how do we continue to cultivate more experience and just take more action so that we can understand things? The more experience you have, the more evolved you are, the more secure and confident you are within yourself because of the fact that you've seen it from so much different perspective. And when you hire coaches, you get it's like the ultimate little hack. Like you don't have to go through all those perspectives and all that experience. You can leverage what they already have.
yes. It's to quote Tony Robbins again, he says it's compressing decades into days, right?
Ooh,
Like instead of taking a decade to figure something out, you can pay someone and they can help you figure it out in days. And yeah, I'm all about that.
yeah. What is exactly does manifestation mean to you, or how do you explain manifestation?
So I used to think of it as like you're manifesting something you want from your mind into your physical reality, right? And I think that's the common way we think of it. And over the past year, I mean, really more than that, like the past 5 years, I would say, or so, but the last year, really, I've been really thinking about this a lot. And what I've seen working with my clients is, and what I've seen just in general is like, it's really not about that. It's about who you become, right? It's about, I think of it as like each person is a magnet. And like I even see that like little emoji, you know, the emoji magnet.
Yeah.
Like you are a magnet, I am a magnet, and we attract certain things to us, right? And so we are like that fulcrum that attracts everything to us. So manifestation is about turning this vessel into what it is that it needs to be to attract what you want. Versus, I think that that idea that manifestation is like trying to get something in your physical reality, it takes that power and puts it outside of you. And it also just it makes this external focus versus being focused on this internal game. And I truly believe, like, I am such a firm believer that the internal game is everything. Like, you can put two people in the same situation, and one person's going to be pissed and one person's going to be elated, you know, because they have the different internal games. And so it's all about improving that internal game. And not only like what you attract, you experience differently, what you attract is different, right? You attract different people into your sphere. Uh, yeah, I'm curious. What is your perspective on it?
I love that. I appreciate you asking. I'm big on the magnets. We talk about in our school community is called magnetic manifesting. And I've given several talks on this and even made it like a core component of our podcast at times. I was actually just even listening to one of our last events. But the other thing that I love all the things that you said that like you become that person, then you naturally pull that stuff in because you're magnetic. And the other cool thing about magnets is that they actually repel things that are not for them.
Mm.
And so I think the more magnetic you become, you're actually like you're more polarizing because you're going to turn certain people off and they don't want anything to do with you, which is beautiful because now you're being more efficient with your time and your energy. I mean, if you think about it, magnets are the most efficient things on the planet. They don't waste any time. They just automatically attract things and they automatically repel things. And the way you become magnetic is truly knowing yourself and being authentic to who you are. And the only way you can be authentic to who you are is you have to know yourself. You have to know your values and what who you really are and what you stand for.
I love that. I think that's such a really, really good way to look at it. There's this German research study that they did. Did you hear about this where they measured like different frequencies in the body and they measured like love, which we often think of as the highest vibration, right, that a person can be at. But they found that authenticity is 4,000 times more magnetic than love.
Really? I didn't know
Yes.
it was that much. I knew authenticity was higher, but I didn't know it was to that extent.
Yeah, it's like, and I think of it as like, it's like authenticity is the ultimate form of self-love, but also like acceptance at the same time, like acceptance of the universe, love of the universe, like, and so I think it's almost like it is love. It's just a different version of it, right?
It's like the word that comes to me is truth.
Mm,
It's like
yeah,
you're just totally au- authentic. That's the word, but it's just like there's no, I don't know what the word is. It's there's no, it's like fully you. There's no mask at all.
yeah,
There's nothing blocking it. There's no like, it's like, let's say sunglasses are like to what shit, how thick the sunglasses are, that represents, like, basically you take the lenses out and that's authentic because it's not blocking anything from the sun.
yeah.
It's a
It's
weird
like
metaphor.
non-resistance. Like you'd have no resistance to what is or what isn't or anything
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
and to your point of it's so interesting. I feel like again, as we're talking more, I just feel like we're very in very similar spaces with this whole realization of all these things. Because I did hear that a lot, and that, about manifestation, it's like making the invisible visible. And more recently, it's not that. It's the realization that the invisible is already real. Like the moment that you think about it, it's already created.
Yeah.
And and then if you even go a little bit deeper than that, it's like everything is already written too. So it's just like the realization that like life is happening exactly the way it's supposed to and the divine timing that it is supposed to.
Yeah. We are like in the flow. Something I've been thinking a lot about too is this idea of like conscious manifestation of I think that in the manifestation space there's a lot of people that get into it for very self-serving reasons of I want that new Ferrari, I want that full bank account, right? I want these things for me. And what I've seen over and over again is when that's your motive, you are not a powerful manifester. It's when you start to manifest for the bigger vision, for other people, for sharing, for being light in the world, that you become a really powerful manifester and you start manifesting things so quickly. And it really is like your intention behind why you want something matters. Something I've been doing personally is I started tying all my business goals to how much I get to donate. So there's this organization I really like. It's called Marisi. I think that's how you pronounce it. And they donate for every $500, you save the life of a woman who's being trafficked in India. And so, anyway, I started tying how much my revenue is to how many women I get to save. And I'm like, there's pretty much nothing more motivating than realizing you get to like save a woman's life by making more money in your business. And it's like that intention transforms my whole vision of my business and it transforms my whole energy behind my business.
Wow. That's beautiful. I already knew pieces of that, but to hear the full story about it, that's beautiful. And the other thing I was going to say, I was on a podcast, I think it was a couple weeks ago, and you're exactly right with like people come into the manifestation space for self-serving reasons because it's like, I don't have this, so I want that. Right. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like this 2-year-old energy where it's like, you have that, so I want it, or I don't have that, so I want that. But even like what you're saying is that it's more of like it's a heart-led desire rather than like a heady want.
Yes.
And then you tie in more like realness to it where it's like, wow, you're saving a life. And instead of just being like, oh, I want to make 50K a month, and then it kind of seems ephemeral and you're like, oh, what am I going to do with that? I don't like it, but it's just like this number. And now you're like bringing more realistic things into place. And then, you probably are like even visualizing the steps of like, oh, after I make this, then I donate to this. And it's just like the more that you can make it real, the more that it actually becomes real in your mind. And then therefore it becomes more real in your life.
Yes. I so agree. It's like making that it's kind of like what you said, but making that invisible, that like arbitrary number into something of what it would mean for you, right? And what it would mean for anyone that you interact with.
Yeah. I mean, I learned this from mentors, and this is inherently now what we teach as well, is that like anytime you can make things more real, it's so helpful. So like something we love doing is, have you ever heard of like, we call it dream building. I'm sure it's called other things, but basically you go experience and test drive the life that you want, whether you want to go like, there's some pretty nice houses out here in Scottsdale, Paradise Valley area. So I'll go drive by them and just like get in that energy, or I'll go test drive cars, go try on clothes. And again, those are more like surface level things, but the more that like you actually get in that energy, you feel the bag that you're wanting to, actually manifest, then it's like, oh wow, this is real. You're feeling it. And then even with like just like what we were talking about with yours is like if you do have a number of, hey, I want to make 100K a month, it's like, okay, well, what are you doing with that? Like, what are you doing with, okay, you're putting this amount for taxes, and then you're putting it, and then you like have a goal. And we always have people do that as well. It's like once you do hit that goal, whatever it is, what are you doing now? And so you have this whole plan played out to say, like, once I hit there, then boom. It's not like, because if not, then you're kind of like, oh, well, yeah, I'll hit that. And then when it does happen, then I'll figure it out. And it just kind of, you're kind of like sitting back and hoping that it's happened. Instead, you're like, yeah, doing this, doing this, doing this, and just having more of a pointed plan to make it more real.
Yeah. I like what you said too about having the steps afterward, because something I see a lot is I think that people almost have this subconscious fear of reaching their goal because they're like, well, if I reach it, what am I going to work towards, right? What is going to be my purpose? What's going to be my vision? And you realize there's like always that next level that you get to experience and you get to
Mhm.
move toward and work toward. And I think that's cool to like pre-map it out.
Exactly. And I like that point as well, is like always setting the vision again.
Yeah.
I had a mentor that shared this one with me, and it stuck with me. And it's just, I think it's so powerful. And I think it's really imperative, because how many times have you heard or experienced it or seen other people do it, is where they set a goal, and that's amazing. They reach that goal, and then it seems like what shortly after they kind of start fizzling out.
Yeah.
And this is the formula that my mentor, he said, set the standard, or set the standard or goal, reach the standard, reward the reaching of the standard, and then re-raise the standard. And I think
Mm,
that last part, I think the last two parts is most people don't really reward themselves, like really celebrate it. And I think
mhm.
that's something I want to continue to get better at, is like doing specific things to be like, oh, I set this goal. This is a new standard for me. And because of that, I'm going to go celebrate. And celebrate doesn't mean you got to go on a trip or you got to go pop bottles or whatever you want to do. But it's like, even just like going and watching a sunset, like that's a celebration for me, because I said that I was going to go celebrate it in some capacity. But then absolutely is like resetting the standard. Because then, with the work that we do with doing these vision espressos, which I think this might be a good time to transition and show you yours. But it's like, that's why we always recommend that like you recreate it, 3, 6 months, because the vision that you have right now there's the grander vision is always going to be pretty similar, but in the more of the shorter time, it's so imperative to keep on re-raising that standard. Otherwise, you get stale, and then that's when you start fizzling out. Because, one of my favorite quotes is like, without vision, the people perish.
Yeah.
And I know that from my perspective is like anytime I don't have a vision, it's like I start perishing.
Yes, totally. Have you read Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill?
Yeah,
It
that's
reminds me of like the idea of drifting, right? It's like if you don't have that clear vision, you just drift and you end up, I don't know, somewhere random that you don't want to
exactly.
be.
Yeah, if you're not intentional about like where you're going, you're gonna unintentionally land somewhere else.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I think again, this might be a good time to transition to your Vision Espresso. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Cool. So just to give you a little bit of context, there's a little bit of an intro, and it'll ask you what is your intention for the day, and then what is one thing that you're grateful for. So just speak those out loud when it prompts you, and then it'll lead right into a little bit of breath work, and then it'll fade right into your audio.
Cool. Okay.
All right, here we go.
Now, before I hand you off to your highest self, I have three things for you. One, what is your intention for today? Say it out loud.
My intention is to be a light in the world.
Good. Number two, what is one thing you're grateful for right now? Say it out loud.
I'm grateful for my friends and my family and my health.
Awesome. Now, three, I want you to take 10 highly connected, highly conscious breaths.
Hey Jen, it's me, it's you, the future you. I'm so excited for you to get here, to see who you've become and all you've created. Yeah, the mastery of a global podcast platform, the creation of a thriving 100,000-month business, the deep and loving bond with your husband, the philanthropic impact saving lives through Marisi, the luxurious homes in breathtaking locations, the enriching travels to spiritual retreats and global conferences, and all the lives you've had a massive impact on, especially your own. Jen, you're incredible. There's absolutely no one out there like you. And as you continued to listen to that vision audio from Nico is when things really started to shift. Your journey was unfolding more beautifully than you could have ever imagined. Every morning, you awaken in a bedroom where sunlight dances across the walls, illuminating the space with a golden glow. Your day begins with a profound meditation session on the balcony, the gentle whispers of the ocean grounding you, instilling a deep sense of peace that carries through the day. Your walks on the beach with Yuma are more than routines. They are sacred moments where you connect deeply with nature, drawing energy and serenity from the earth and sky. These walks infuse your spirit with a calm strength that defines your approach to each day. Your podcast has transformed into a global platform, each episode a bridge connecting you with thought leaders and changemakers. These conversations have not only expanded your influence, but also enriched your intellect and soul, bringing you insights and inspirations that continually propel your growth. The mastermind group you envisioned has flourished under your guidance, driving your business to consistently achieve $100,000 months. The funnels you meticulously crafted have become a gold standard in the digital realm, admired for their efficiency and effectiveness. Your lifestyle reflects the vibrancy of your career. Lunches with friends at exclusive seaside restaurants are not mere gatherings. They are vibrant brainstorming sessions that spark new ideas and adventures, filling your life with joy and creativity. Travel has become a fundamental part of your existence, with each trip from spiritual retreats in Costa Rica to dynamic conferences around the world, enriching your life and broadening your perspective. Philanthropy is a significant thread in the fabric of your life. Your efforts with Marisi have far surpassed your initial goals, empowering countless women to find new hope and freedom. This work deeply satisfies your soul, knowing each contribution changes lives and aligns with your vision of healing the world. In your personal life, the bond with your husband, the love of your life, has blossomed beautifully. As you both navigate life's chapters together, your relationship deepens, becoming a source of unparalleled love and support. You reside in stunning homes that serve as sanctuaries of peace and inspiration. Each space is curated to reflect your essence and foster creativity. Your classic blue Porsche, always ready for spontaneous adventures, symbolizes your freedom and zest for life. The meals prepared in your home are not just nourishing, but are culinary healing experiences crafted by your chef, aligning with your commitment to wellness. Jenn, I love you. I love who you are. I love who you've always been. And I love who you're constantly becoming. Now get up and make it a great day.
Whew, wow. Oh, wow. I did not expect to, it felt so, it was so interesting that it's my voice, but it sounds like it's like a little bit ahead of me. Like it sounds like it's like a higher self, a version of me. And like hearing that, I was like, I kept getting chills. Like I kept getting all this energy moving through my body. I was like, wow, that was incredible. Wow. And like when she said I love you, I was like, oh my gosh, like it's really moving. That's incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've had similar thoughts to that because it's interesting when we first started this, we had the client actually record it themselves and speak it to them, which there's a lot of power in that as well as just like speaking that out with the conviction. But the first time that we did it this way, I thought the same thing where I was like, that sounds not exactly like me. And I was like, I don't know if, and but then after I started listening to it more, I was like, I kind of like that because now it seems like there's just a little bit different inflection in my voice where it is like, that is my future self. And it's the fact that I didn't speak it. I was like, yeah, I believe it even more.
Yeah. That's exactly how I felt. I was like, she's like a little bit, especially the amount of conviction in the voice. Like it really did. It felt really like very, very real. I didn't expect it to like have that much physical impact on me, I think. Where did you come up with that idea?
Like just in general, or
Yeah, like it's a really great idea.
so it's spawned off a lot. I mean, again, after like investing in myself a lot over the years, I've just taken pieces from all sorts of amazing people. Um, when I was referencing the whole thing about YouTube ads, that came from a place where I went through this mindset course, and at the end of the course, like you did all this work, and at the end of the course, you had this worksheet that you basically put together. It was like not just a worksheet, it was like a workbook, to be honest, and it was like pages of who you've been, who you are now, and like who you're going, where you're going, and you would read that every morning. I was like, wow, that it was so powerful because I would read it every morning with such conviction. And then there's just different pieces. I've been a big proponent of visualization. My Ever since I played baseball, I would visualize seeing myself hitting walk-off home runs off the seven of the scoreboard. And then that happened, and that was a big epiphany for me. And so just like this whole thing about visualizing was really powerful for me. And then we launched the podcast, and we throw events. And so we're having our third year anniversary event tomorrow, actually.
Oh, okay.
And it was interesting because that's where it really all started to come together. Because when I first launched it, I was still doing YouTube ads. And then I just felt all this passion towards energy whenever we would do the events and even just the podcast in between the events. And then my friend had sent me this video, and it was a guy that was walking out on the stage in front of probably thousands of people. And then they sat down on the couch and did a podcast. And it was just like the coolest video. And I was like, whoa, like that gave me chills. And then what I did from that is I downloaded it, I put my branding on top of it. So then it felt more like me. And then we were up in Flagstaff for just like a weekend cabin trip with a bunch of friends. And I was showing one of my friends and I was like, this is pretty cool. And he's like, yeah, and that's probably not the only thing that you want. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, yeah. So I was like, basically take the concept of a vision board and turn it into life. And
Yeah.
so that's where it like initially came from. And that was, we launched it, like I said, like 3 years ago. But and at first they were videos, and then it's just evolved so much. And then now that we have obviously like AI and systems, we make it more scalable, and it's more of a way that we can actually, yeah, duplicate them more frequently and consistently. So it was kind of a long story, but that's kind of where it all stemmed from.
Yeah. There's some power in that I feel like when I have like I've had the mind movie before, like the Dr. Joe mind movie type thing, and I have a vision board, and I always feel like for me, visualization is way more powerful because there's something like that you're actually tapping into your own brain, your own subconscious when you're doing it. So like hearing all of that, I saw so many visuals,
Mhm.
and it feels really, I think that's why it felt so powerful is because of my it's tapping into like whatever my mind is bringing up at that moment versus a vision board is static, right? It's always the same.
Exactly. And that was the thing I kept really thinking on was because I've done the mind movie before. I've done vision boards before. And what I really recalled was my manifestations in baseball were wild. And I would look back on when I would visualize. I got so serious about it for some time because I went to junior college and I basically had my last year at junior college, I basically had one season to have a standout season because I wanted to go play D1. And I had no prospects and like nobody was looking at me, but I was like, I if I can have a standout year, I'm willing to bet I can make something happen. And so I just put everything I had into it, physically, but also mentally and emotionally. And I would visualize every night before I went to bed and every day right when I woke up, and I would just see myself hitting home runs, hitting home runs, hitting home runs, like just playing lights out. And the thing is that when I would see myself hitting home runs, I would get chills because I love like baseball was my everything,
Yeah.
and I would get chills and I would literally like feel it. I would hear the crowd cheering and I would be rounding the bases and just like I would feel it. And then when I applied that process to other things, I wouldn't get that same feeling. So, and then after learning so much about this stuff, I realized the feeling is the secret.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, there's so many modalities out there that help me feel things with specifically music and tones and just guided things. And I was like, well, what if we put something together that helps you feel better and more consistently? That was
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah. What I really like about it too is I think that with visualization, it can sometimes be hard to, if you just sit like what I typically do is I just turn on a song. Like I have some classical music I really like. So I'll do that and I'll turn it on and I'll visualize. But some days it's like harder to think of what do I want to visualize, right? What is it that I want to focus on? And I like this because it adds some guidance, right? And it includes so many things that you want to repeatedly connect to. And there's this vision and this picture that's painted with these details. And yeah, super cool. I'm so excited to use it. I'll let you know what I manifest.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see it because I mean you're already a powerful manifester as it is. You add this to it, it's cool. And one of our other clients, she was talking about, she says this really brings a level of accountability to your manifestations as well because and this is why we always talk about the woo and the do, because I think sometimes in the manifestation place, people can get very lost in the woo. And I like bringing some pragmatism and just keeping that in balance. But even for me, like I would, if I didn't have something like this, I would visualize, but then it seemed like it was something kind of different every time.
Yeah.
And when you like firmly cement and you go through the process and you speak out all these things that you want to manifest, it's basically saying, all right, we're locked in on this, we're focused on this. And then anytime you come back to it, which is every day, then you're just like reminding yourself of that. And I think that's the whole thing is like the subconscious controls our entire life. So it's like a lot of times before you get started in this type of work is that you have this disempowering narrative that's going on in your subconscious. So the
Yeah.
only way to really start reprogramming that is repeating a story that is empowering that's about to happen as if it's already happened.
Yeah. Totally, totally. And your mind doesn't know the difference between what you're imagining and what's real. And so when you can imagine it, it's so like it's everything. It's so cool. I recently my mom gave me this stuffed animal from when I was a kid, and it's this like dog stuffed animal. And I realized I was like, it's literally my dog. Like the dog I have now, everything about this stuffed animal is the same as my dog. And I was like, it really is like we are so programmed beyond what we can even imagine, from the way that we look to the way that we interact with people. Like it's all of these programs, but we also have the power to change them if we want to. If we are reacting in certain ways that we don't want to, or we're attracting certain things, like we get to reprogram ourselves. And there's so many amazing ways to do that. And this is really cool. It's a really, really neat way. I think too, a lot of like my clients are newer in the manifestation space and they struggle to see visuals in their mind because it is a skill. It's a skill. Some people can't, but it's a skill to see it. And I think having this structure is going to be helpful for that of being able to, okay, call to mind these images over and over again until they start to feel real to you and you build those neural pathways.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, you're just speaking all like it's funny, like the things that you're saying are things, reasons why I started it. And sometimes we have so much stuff going on that I forget of all the reasons. But exactly, like I would say also to that point is I would have challenges with visualizing at times where I was like, all right, close my eyes. I understand this stuff works. And I've even had those experiences that have helped me significantly. But still, I just like, there's days when I'm just like, I'm not seeing anything. Like, I'm not
Yeah,
feeling anything. And it's like, how do I create something that can help me with this?
yeah. So I have a question for you. What is like the craziest thing that you've manifested that you were like, wow, this is exactly what I saw? Or
I mean, there's a lot of stories and stuff that I've been very intentional with. Like when I first started, it was like literally like within the week, my income tripled. That was like
wow.
wild in itself. And then a relationship came in like pretty instantly, and I was like, whoa. And that's even like what gave me the conviction to be like, all right, I think I'm ready to like launch this, probably even sooner than I thought I would. But here's the other thing I would say to that question is that I think overall I've just become more powerful in my manifestations. And it was really solidified not even too long ago when I was traveling and I was coming back from Colorado. I went to the airport and I was coming back with my parents. They live on the East Coast. We were in Colorado and their flight was like 4 or 5 hours before mine. And so I just wanted to come with them and hang out with them for as long as I could. And obviously I was on a different flight. And so long story short, like there's this whole thing about like how I couldn't check in that far in advance because for whatever reason. But then the lady at the desk said, well, you can like you can put your luggage on the flight earlier and then you can get on standby and maybe you'll get on that flight or otherwise your luggage will just beat you to Phoenix. So I was like, okay, no big deal. And then ended up going to the gate and they're like, oh yeah, you're not going to get on this flight. Like you're on standby and there's 12 people ahead of you. I was like, all right, cool, no big deal. And then they announced it. The flight was full. It's about to take off. And then I just went up to the lady at the desk and I was like, hey, do I need a new ticket? Because there was another flight between my that flight and the flight I was scheduled for. And then she's like, at that very moment, she gets a call. And
It's God.
I knew it right. I knew what happened right away. And she's like, what? Really? Okay. Puts the phone down, just starts typing, prints out the ticket and says, get on the flight. And it was funny
Wow.
because like there was all these people, there was 12 people ahead of me. And I was
Mhm.
actually talking with a few of them and they're all like kind of angry. They're like, I better get on this flight. And I was just like having a good time. I was just chatting with people. And for whatever reason, this was just like a funny interaction at the airport. There's all these little like weird, funny things that were going on. And I was just like laughing the entire time. And then these people were like, oh, I better get on this flight. I've been here for 5 hours. And then like she gives me the ticket. And then like everyone is just staring me down. And I'm just like, see you guys. So the reason I tell that story is that like yes, there's been specific certain manifestations that I've intended and like put that out there. Like a couple like there's some big influencers I've connected with. Like one of the biggest influencers I put in my very first Vision Espresso, I got into a three-way text with him. Like it's just like these weird idiosyncrasies. But again, I
Yeah.
think just overall, I feel that I've just been more powerful because I just continually practice it. And now I just like have this like magic wand that I can just like use as fit.
I so agree with that. I love that because it's like there's all the big things, but then there's the little things that are like the little winks where you're like, oh, that's cool. Like that was nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way we talk about it in our Skool community as or excuse me, manifesting momentum. Because I think this is kind of a misnomer as well, as a lot of people think it's like, oh, I want to go from just starting my business to living in this multi-million dollar home. And the way I always like to explain it is like, how do you just start building that momentum where it's like, okay, you start your business, you get one client. And even if it's not like a big thing, it's like celebrate that and get excited about that. And like put attention towards it because the more attention you put towards it, the more you focus on, the more it expands. And then you just
Yes.
start building this momentum where you just feel like you're in a really flow state. And then all of a sudden, like you can't stop things if you try.
Yeah, I so agree. When I started my supplement business, I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I didn't know how to start it. So I made my goal, I would work on it 15 minutes every day. And it was like that gave me the momentum to where then it just, carried itself. But it's all about that momentum, like getting started.
Yeah. Well, Jen, this has been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat it up with me and just have some great conversation around this whole topic and hear your story a little bit. A question that I love to ask before we close out, and you can tell where people can find you and everything, but what would you love for people to take away from this conversation that we just had?
I think just realizing that your life can be anything that you want it to be. Like you really are, we are so unlimited. And the more that I'm in this space, the more I'm like, I don't like the illogical is logical. Like there's
Mm.
so much that you can create. And I wish that more people really recognize that and own that. Because I think we can get stuck in thinking like, oh, well, I couldn't do that, or she can do that, but I can't. And it really is like we all can create anything that we want. And living from that place is so freeing and so empowering and so magnetic.
Mm,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's like I think it was my grandma that told me this one a while back is that like we are all responsible for our life, but only the successful ones admit it.
Wow, that's a good one. Good job, girl.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow.
yeah, grandma's got wisdom for sure. She's amazing. But it's like it was interesting, even like a team member of ours, I've shared this a couple times and had a conversation with him about after this, but like someone was telling him about like this job, not a job board, like but like this board of people that were saying like manifestation was a scam. And then we were actually even talking about it yesterday. And I was like, do you realize that? Because he started like having all this doubt and not feeling good as he like dove into that stuff and started believing that stuff. And I was like, do you
Yeah.
realize that you prove that manifestation is real because of the fact that you lost faith in it by watching and putting all that energy towards that? He's like, oh, wow, I guess you're right. Like, it's whatever you want, but it's just that's why it's about being intentional. And that's why we start out with like speaking those intentions out. The more you do that every single day and use your voice, Like it's crazy. Like abracadabra. Have you ever heard of that? I got a tattoo.
I no, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean heard of it? Like the
Uh,
magicians?
so yeah, that's what most people know about it, but in Hebrew, it's translated to as I speak, I create.
Oh, wow.
So it's like just what you said is like we're responsible. We
Yeah.
can create anything that we want if we put the right thoughts out, we put the right vibration out, and we take the right aligned actions, and we just repeat that process over and over again. Like there's nothing out of reach.
Yes. So agree. It's that like responsibility.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And thank you for
definitely.
my Vision Espresso. I can't wait to start using it.
Yeah, definitely. Where can people find you, or what? Any other last messages?
My Instagram is great. Alignment with Jenn, Jenn. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. We'll make sure and put that in the show notes and descriptions and all that kind of stuff. But again, thank you so much, Jen. Appreciate you.
Thank you too. Bye.